Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with authentic, heart-centered experts about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate personal and professional change. Today, we're going to be talking about aligning your business with who you are for massive success. And this conversation is worth your while if your business still ranks in the hobby level, or on the other side, maybe it blew up, but it no longer feels like you. And you want to achieve the business and life that is in alignment with who you are. That just feels like, oh, that would be awesome, as if only that could happen. Well, today we're going to share with you how and why massive success can be achieved when you trade in those copycat tendencies for creating a business using your unique gifts, and then that business becomes in alignment with who you are. So I am Linda Bucher. Can I say my own last name? And I am a speaker and a trainer and a master certified life coach. And I lived the life of a chameleon for about 45 years. And then my soul discovered this thing that I'm supposed to be doing, right? So I was in total alignment. And it was a very beautiful thing. But then trying to do my business was totally like, wait a minute, this should be easy, but it wasn't. So I'm very excited to be talking about this with you today. And we're going to share so many wonderful things. And so today I have the pleasure of being joined by Camille Miller. And Camille is an alternative business engineer, and she is making very positive ripples in a unique way. She does help people who walk to a different drumbeat to develop their dreams and create massively successful businesses. I'm so excited, Camille. Thank you for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me as a guest today.
You're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is an alternative business engineer and who you work with and why you do it?
Yeah, thank you. I chose the title alternative business engineer because I wanted it to really stick out there. I think there's a billion business mentors and consultants and everything out there. And I really work with people that walk to a different drumbeat, very logically minded, and they're usually skilled in a very specific area, came out of the corporate world, and now wants to take those gifts and create a business of their own. So that's why I call an alternative business, because I always create a strategy that's in alignment with who they are. So if they don't like doing video, we don't do video. If you don't like a certain client, we don't do that. You want to work 2 days a week, we work 2 days a week. Like, it's about creating a business in alignment with who they are. So I love the title alternative business engineer, because we are creating alternative businesses, right? It's not what you and I learned in business school. It's this new way.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay. So today, this is exactly what our topic is all about, something that you and I have both lived. And it's about
Yes.
aligning your business with who you are for massive success. So when I, almost 15 years ago, left my high-paying corporate job, 25 years experience, MBA, right? All this business stuff, I left it because my soul was called to help other people, right? To become a coach and help other people. And it was a very authentic reason that I was doing what I was doing. It felt much more like a calling and not like a business decision, like I'm going to go in business for myself. So it was authentic, but I had this assumption that because I had been in the business world doing computer programming, finance, project management, marketing, I'd all run the gamut in that 25 years, and that master's degree in business, that doing business was going to be a cinch. And I was so in my head. So what happened is my soul loved what this calling and wanted to be able to do what I was doing. And then not before long, I started being that chameleon and doing it everyone else's way, because the internet's very noisy and says, oh, you want to market? You got to market this way. Oh, you better be on social media. Oh, you got to make this many posts. You should start a group. Don't forget to do this launch. It was just so many things coming at me. And then what happened is I tried them all. And as I tried them all my joy began to drain away. And all of a sudden, my business felt more like a chore instead of like a joy.
Yeah.
And I know that you went through something very similar. I'd love if you would share that.
Yeah, I absolutely did. Following other people's opinions, and I don't know how it happened, but at some point I lost myself in creating and teaching people how to be themselves. So that's the nuance, right? But we ended up blowing up. We were an online community since 2018. And I've always helped solo line entrepreneurs really create a business around their authentic selves. And in 2020, since we were already online, our business started to just blow up. Everyone that was watching us started following us. I went from a one-woman show to actually by this summer, I had 12 people working for me. And I sat there and just went, I'm more a CEO in controlling and management and looking at copy, and other people were posting and doing everything. And I lost the connection with each one of my members, and I had stopped doing one-on-one work. The one thing that I love to do is help people strategize. I always say I love building businesses. I hate running them. And I ended up running a business, right? The exact thing I didn't want to do. So I came to a point where I just went, okay, I'm done. And I just let it all go. And now I'm back to, teaching my financial abundance boot camp and doing my one-on-one work again, and just really slowly going back to who I was 5 years ago, because I grew a business that was successful, but not in alignment.
Right.
Not in alignment,
Exactly.
not what I set out to do. So I
Yeah.
had to recalibrate.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So I love that we have these different examples. We both, drank the Kool-Aid, right? Followed all these things. You became massively successful. I'm putting that in quotes, air quotes for those of you who are listening. There's air quotes right here. Massively successful financially, but out of alignment. So that fulfillment piece went missing.
Yeah.
Right? And then for me, I drank the Kool-Aid of, oh, you got to grow, you got to scale, Linda, you got to scale. You can't just one-on-one all these clients and then, have a massively successful business. You've got to scale, and scale means get into groups, and scale means start teaching, and scale means, again, get out of that one-on-one connection. And I'll tell you the crazy thing that happened to me is as soon as my brain went there and I started building, and hiring other people to help me build, my one-on-one business almost dried up because energetically I had the sorry, we're closed sign.
Yep, that's what happened to
Sorry,
me.
we're closed for business. I'm building, I'm growing, so I can't take any clients, right? It was craziness. So mine went the other way. So I think our listeners, some people might have experienced your story, some people might have experienced my story. Either way, we got out of alignment. And it's so funny because just like you said, like you knew, like you were helping people build authentic businesses, and then you lost touch with yourself. And I had in 2014, I wrote a book for new coaches specifically, and it's called The Confident Coach. And the very first section, a big, massive chapter, was like, be who you are, right? And my quote in there is like, when you wrap what you're doing and how you're doing it around who you are, happiness and success will meet you there.
Yes.
Then yet, same thing. I slipped away and I wasn't doing that anymore. And I was not successful and I was not happy. Like, what the heck? And that's because I had stopped doing the very thing that I knew I needed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other thing is giving away your power.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I didn't realize that I was searching for someone else to save me. I kept hiring people at huge salaries to save me, to be something I was not. Right. And I was convinced in their proposals, and these were good people, they weren't trying to be malicious in any way, that I needed their help to get to wherever I wanted to go. And I believed it. And I was like, okay, I don't have the power within me to get me where I want to go. So I started to hire people, very expensive people, to get me. So it could be coaches and marketing people and whatever it is. People hire people because they don't think they have the power within them to get to where they want to be. And I'm here to tell you, everything you need to know is already inside you. I kept giving away my power. I was doing master classes and I was allowing other people to run them, like to be the thing, and they were using my audience. I mean, I offered it because I really didn't want to be the head of a company. So I was like, okay, just use this platform and I'll do all of these master classes. And I put this whole series together. And then at the end of the year, I was like, you know what? Why am I not teaching these master classes? Like, So
Right.
for all of 2024, I will be teaching monthly master classes around soul aligned businesses because I made the mistake of giving my power away. So now I'm kind of taking it back because I want to go back to the mentor, the teacher, the part that I love, interactive training. That's what I love. And although I do still work with groups because I love groups, to bring back that one-on-one when people need it.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm
Yeah.
toying with like clarity calls, putting out clarity calls that small, like, let me answer a question or something for you. I know I'm not a fan of long-term coaching, so I don't sell like long-term packages. I like the let's brainstorm and figure out what you need to do right now to get where you want to do.
Right.
Right. And then the baby steps to get there. Because so
Right.
many times we have this vision and we stack our dreams on, like, when I'm rich, I will travel, right? Instead of just saying, why don't you just take weekend excursions when you can? Like, start the ball rolling in that direction. Stop stacking your dreams.
Yeah, I love that. And I had some exactly similar experience. I figured, well, I don't know how to market, so I'm going to spend $20,000 and pay someone to do my marketing. And then it didn't even work because it wasn't authentic to me. My message needs to come out of my mouth. And when it does, that's when people are listening. But when someone else is crafting words for me, it doesn't work. It's not the same. It's like, and I've also noticed that when I give something live, it works and I attract people like in a group setting, for instance, but the evergreen doesn't work because it doesn't have my own energy attached to it. I pull up the evergreen, super discounted price. There you go do this because I've heard, oh, evergreen passive income, right? I did it. Crickets. Nobody wants the evergreen. They want the live energy, right? So this is me. I know me. I know when I'm in my flow. And yet I was just doing it everyone else's way, trusting, asking other people to save me. Here's all my content. I've got so much content. Do something with it. Social market it. Do the. I just kept giving it all away instead of saying, what's in alignment? What do I love to do? When are people listening? What's happening when people are inviting me for more, right?
Yeah.
And being in alignment with who you are, let's talk about the spiritual piece too. Like my human design is projector. So projectors cannot sell. It's
not
impossible.
A lot of
It doesn't
them.
work.
Yes.
It doesn't work. We have to wait for an invitation. Now, I'm not so happy about waiting, right? So instead I said, oh, I'm not waiting, I'm receiving. I'm in the receiving mode. I'm receiving invitations, beautiful invitations. And when I feel the energy of receiving, my awareness is wider and I seem to attract the most amazing connections, amazing people like you, people that I can learn from, but I'm not trying to learn from a standpoint of, I don't know enough, save me, fix me, but more like, oh, I'm intrigued. Which of what of all the things you're saying or all of my guests in my podcast, which resonate with me? Because that's in my truth, that's in alignment. If it doesn't resonate, I'm no longer doing it. That's what's happening.
Yeah. I had a similar, almost exactly similar situation because when I hired people, especially marketing, I spent, and I did it 4 times with 4 different teams. I hired marketing people that loved what I do. They all loved who I was and what I did. And they're like, let me get your name out there. Let me do this. Let me do this. And I gave my power away and I allowed them to do it. I spent thousands of dollars on Instagram, creating an Instagram. I don't even have an Instagram account personally, and I only attract who I am. So I don't know what I was thinking there. And right to create things that were not me. They were using my words, right? They were representing the company, the larger picture of who I was, like the company, but not me. And I actually ended up losing more people in that year than I have ever lost. So yeah, it was crazy. So I did the same, and I did it 4 times. Just
Right. Well, we keep repeating patterns until we learn what we came to learn. And each have finally, same thing after tens of thousands of dollars of doing it someone else's way, we have come to this conclusion, which is our biggest message for our audience today, that you must design your business and do business in complete alignment with who you are. I think of it like a hand in a glove. This is you. You are the hand. Your glove needs to fit perfectly. Your business is your glove that goes right over the top of it. And on your hand, these fingers are your values, right? What's important to you. and your purpose, right? All those things. And so that glove needs to fit just perfectly. And I think that's a great metaphor for people to think of. So now that you know that, you can move forward. And let's
Yeah.
talk about how we can move forward if someone is out of alignment. What are some things that they can do today, right now, right? Step back, and what can they do?
I always say the best thing to do is write 2 columns on a piece of paper, write with a pen because you think differently when you use a pen. 2 columns. One, everything that you want in your life, your ultimate dreams. And the second column are things you definitely don't want. Like, I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to work with groups if you don't want to do that. Or I don't want to hunt people down. I don't want to do TikTok, whatever it is. And then the things that you really love to do in the other column, right? I'd like it to work 3 days a week. I'd like to travel. I'd like to speak on stages. So you have a very clear vision of what that looks like and not what people are telling you should be doing. Right. I talk about all the time with social media. You see so many people out there, but they're all extroverts. I'm not an extrovert. I'm naturally an introvert. And then you see all these people, me and everyone else. I'm like, oh, if I could only do that. And to realize, it was big to realize I'm not that person. I'm never going to be that because
Yeah,
that is not authentic to who I am. So I always say, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. That's
right.
it. If it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, don't do it because then you know that you are totally out of alignment.
Absolutely. And I think of it, I love that you're saying, let's make these columns. That's a beautiful thing for our listeners to do. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
And then every time you're tempted, because like I rarely go on social media. So that's again not me.
That's
I don't,
different.
I
Yeah.
resist it. I don't like doing it. I have someone else do it for me with the podcast. So I'm doing the podcast. That's authentically
Right.
me. She puts out the social media teasers for the podcast,
About it. Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's not in alignment with who I am. So I've got someone else doing that, and she does a beautiful job, and I'm happy with it for sure. Like, thank you. I don't even look at it. I just trust. Oh, beautiful. It brings people to the podcast.
Yeah.
Um, so then when there's something you say, well, I'm going to be doing this, like I do this podcast and I want to get it out into the world for my guest, for myself, for the listeners, first and foremost, because we are here for the listeners to solve a challenge for them. And so that it's got to go out on social media. It's got to get out there, right? So I had to get over myself. Like, I don't want to do it. Well, guess what? It's in that column that I'm going to have someone do because the purpose of doing it is in alignment with me. Because getting the message out is in alignment with me because that's what I'm here to do is get the message out that anyone in the world can make big, beautiful ripples. And that's what we're actually here to do. We're here to make change.
Yeah.
So getting the podcast out is in alignment. Me doing it, not in alignment.
Yeah.
So that's how we can choose to delegate. And then other things that come our way that we're watching, like, oh, you should, we can look at it and say, according to those columns you're telling us and saying, is that going to get me here? Does it feel like it's going to get me here, like intuitively, or is that in that other column? And that's
Right.
just my head being impatient, right? And saying, oh, I don't know enough. I don't trust myself. I don't have the power, right? So then these columns are a great starting point because then they become the test.
Yeah.
Everything that comes our way.
Yeah. 2 things. One, you should create like 1 to 3, no more than 3 of your biggest desires of where you want to go and put it in front of you. I have it like right here to my right. So I know in the next 6 months, these are my goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constantly in front of me. It's one thing to wish and hope, but it's a whole nother thing to have the action steps. And they just have to be baby steps,
Right.
baby steps towards it. And as long as you're working in that direction all the time, that'll happen for you. The other thing I wanted to bring up that you just said was people that work for you. I think it is important to have other people work for you, right? And take away the stuff that you don't like to do because that's not in alignment. The stuff that's not in alignment, have other people do that. And I know that's how I did make the mistake with social media, right? There's things I don't like, I gave it away. But now I changed that. And I actually do TikTok all the time. I love TikTok. I love just putting my stuff out there in like 2 minutes and I'm done. right? But then I use that and repurpose it all over
Right.
all my other channels. And I don't actually have any strategy, but there's a consistent message and it's coming from me.
Right.
And I think that is more important than all of it. And
Yes.
there's also like, I know that I don't do really well on Facebook, but I'm not out there and screaming and doing all of this stuff. It is where I hold my community because it's easy, it's safe, and most people have it in the age group that I work in. TikTok is a little out there, but I do really well on LinkedIn, right? But I started doing it from me. This is who
Right.
I am. If I have something to say, I put it out there.
Right.
And I
Right.
just do it that way. It's not because I have to make 3 posts a week or I'm looking for this type engagement. If I feel the calling, that's when I do it.
Right. I
And
love
that's
that.
how
You're
I
not
use.
trying to follow a formula.
No, it's more like I feel like it's divine timing. I
Mm.
feel like when someone is ready to hear from me, I will show up. Now
Yep.
I have to put myself in all of these places, but I'm only actually making one video.
Right.
Right. And then I put it in all of
Yeah.
these different places with different captions, but it's the same video and it took me 2 minutes.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
usually do it with my phone, so it's not even a lot of work for me. Now my staff does everything else, like the podcast and some of the bigger write-ups and my emails. But I find that I get the most traction when I do it personally, when I put a
Right.
personal message in there. Same with my emails. When
Mhm.
I reach out personally to people,
Right.
that's when it works, not the massive emails. So it's just, I think, changing to be
Right.
authentic because people feel that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
About 10 or 12 years ago, I gave up blogging. Everyone said, you got to blog, you got to blog. I am a talker. I am not a writer. I'm like, I'm not blogging, but I used to make these really amazing blogs. Like, I love music. I adore music. And I would blog to lyrics of a song and use them as a metaphor. And I called it my mosaic, like mosaic, but with music. I called it the mosaic. And I probably made 10 or 12 or posts or like that. And at first it was so exciting. It was so in alignment with me
Cool.
because a
Yeah.
lot of times when you're just learning, like as a coach, learning all these new things, and you just want to share all your knowledge with everybody, right? So it's getting it all out there, but it started to feel like a chore. And that's the moment when I became out of alignment. And so then instead of going out weekly, then it was maybe every 2 weeks, then it was every month, and then it was every 6 months. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I gave myself permission to give up what became out of alignment. And so just because you commit to doing something because you love doing it doesn't mean you're always going to love doing it. I am starting year 3 in January of this podcast because I still love it. But if I didn't
Yeah.
love it, I'd stop doing it.
Yep.
But I love, this is an alignment, connecting with really fascinating, interesting people. I have met so many amazing people. And then the people who are on my podcast always introduce me to 3 more people. And it's just a beautiful thing. And that's what's in alignment with me. And that's how I help get my message out.
Right. It feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good. I love what you said about the blog because I was doing exactly the same thing. I kept blogging because you had a blog. It's good for SEO. You got a blog. And then I started paying people to blog for me. Right. And I was like, they sounded like a robot was doing them. And I was like, that's not me. And I pulled all of it off.
Right. How many things do you get in your inbox every day that, oh, I could write your stuff for you? It's all AI stuff. And I'm like, no, you can't write my stuff for me. It has to come through me and
Yeah.
out of me. That's the way I'm heard.
Yeah. Or we can get you so many clients.
Oh,
And I'm like, no, you really can't.
you
I've
can't.
already gone down there. I spent a shit ton of money. Sorry.
That's
Right.
okay.
Of doing that. And it's not true. I naturally just attract being who I am. And
Mm,
boy, was that a hard
yes,
lesson.
it is a hard lesson. So let's talk about real quickly all these yeah buts. So we're exemplifying for people exactly how it doesn't work when you're not resonating with what you're doing. It's not in alignment, and how things do open up, even though they might not believe it's yet because they haven't tried it like you and I have tried it. How everything does open up beautifully when you give yourself permission to let go of doing everything everyone else's way and make these columns and say, this is where I'm going and this is what I'm going to be doing. And all my project work, like you could think of things, I like to think of things on like a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
This quarter, I'm focusing on this in alignment with me. And all the other bright, shiny objects that want to get my attention away, I'm not going to listen because I know intuitively this is what's right for me. And so
Right.
you can check intuitively. But there's yeah buts, right? Because a yeah but someone's going to have it like, well, but what if no one finds me? What if I give up doing all these things? What if I don't know who I am? What if I don't know how to intuitively run my business? Right? They've got all these yeah buts. What do you say to that?
I think the most important part for all of it is showing up. I find that when I talk about being authentic, letting it happen, attracting, they're sitting home in their sweatpants, not really doing. And there's still a lot of action steps that have to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the yeah, but no one's signing up for my stuff. Well, what are you doing? Yeah, but I just want this leisure life, of the entrepreneur, right? Those yeah buts, there's usually a block behind it or something. It depends on what it is, but you have to really start working for it. I take a walk every day, and in my walk yesterday I was frustrated, and because I started doing I started going back to like one-on-one, right? And I'm like, okay, what does that look like for me? What am I doing? And I have this stuff coming in. And then I realized by the end of my walk, and I was like, it's not going in the direction that I thought it would go to. But what I realized was, okay, but you've only actually been working on this for 30 days and you were in Italy for 2 weeks. So, so when I finished, I was like, oh, I'm actually not even giving myself or honoring the time. I didn't even put time towards it. I'm just not seeing results like this in the direction I need in that moment.
Right.
And I had to step back and say, you can revisit this in 90 days after you've shown up every single day and you've done something. So you know what I did today? I got up at 6 o'clock. I sat at my desk and said, I got to start showing up. And here's my list of things that I need to accomplish in the next 90 days to start getting this rolling in the direction that I need it to.
Right.
So a lot of times it's just people not showing up for themselves.
Right. And one of the biggest reasons they don't do that is fear. They're afraid they don't know how, or they're afraid that one of the biggest things we have is a fear of success, that it sets the bar too high, that if I have to do all these things to get to where I want to be, then I'm going to have to keep doing all those things. And that's not what I want to be doing. So the fear of success is a very real fear for a lot of business owners. And that's why they stay small, because they're afraid to be successful, because they're afraid to be caught up in the place where you found yourself, like being a CEO, and they're like, wait a minute, I started my own business, so I didn't have to work 60 hours a week like I did in my corporate job. And now here I am back doing the same thing,
Yeah.
And so it's a real fear. But the point that you and I are making is you get to design how you do business, not just what your business is, how you do it, how much you work. Like you brought up a beautiful point. If you really only want to have a business where it's a part-time business and you're working 2 days a week, then let's design it that way and set realistic expectations of what you're going to do and when and how long it might take, and where the income level might be for what you're doing. We need to really kind of look at that, because we're prioritizing based on our values every day. We're prioritizing based on our values, and then we're letting fear and resistance get in the way.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it. It could be fear of success, and it could be procrastination, which is kind of the same thing, right? There's usually a block there. But if someone says, I don't know what the yeah, but is, yeah, but I hate to blog, then don't blog. Think of another way to get in front of people. Right. Or, yeah, I hear this all the time. I'm showing up for networking events and no one's buying anything. Well,
that's not the point of networking events.
I'm like, okay, well, let's work with that. Why are you going in with an expectation to sell to people instead of building a long-term relationship?
That's right.
Because you don't know who people know.
Right.
I think they look at things differently, but that's what you and I do, right?
Yeah.
We coach people through these things so they see it. And it's so hard, and it happens to me, to see yourself, right? I catch myself all the time, just like I did yesterday, And I'm like, you know, I can catch that if I'm coaching someone else. Right? But when it happens to me, it's so hard when you're an entrepreneur because it's lonely,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and you
again,
forget to show up. You forget. But I always say, get up every day, get dressed for work and work.
yeah, right. However working works for you,
Yeah.
right?
And I have days that I'm in sweatpants and a ponytail because I actually get way more done.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it's a roll up
Yeah.
your sleeves kind of day.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a get out there and meet people kind of day.
Yep. And I
Yeah,
have no video days too,
right.
where I just set them up, the no video days. I went years not working on Fridays. Now I work on Fridays again because I was like, you know what? When I broke down the whole company this summer, I was like, I got to add Fridays back
Mhm.
because, having people on payroll helped with my time, even though but it wasn't in the direction I needed to go. So now I got to rebuild that. So I was like, Fridays are going back on and we'll reevaluate this summer.
Right. Yeah. And reevaluating is a really important thing. We try things and then we evaluate. Did it work? Did it not work? Did we enjoy it?
Yeah.
Right. And we get to do that as business owners as often as we like, as long as we have patience. Like you just said, well, wait a minute, I was in Italy 2 weeks. Like you got to be a little patient. Give yourself a quarter of a real focus on doing business the way that you're meant to do business that feels in alignment with who you are. Right. So I noticed that I'm best when I'm talking one-on-one with people. It's not just as a coach, but when I network. So I probably meet 5 new people a week where I have a one-on-one with them. We're talking for like half an hour,
Yep.
right? And it's amazing how much I learn, how much I grow, who I connect with and who they connect me with.
Yep.
And that works for me so much better than any social media I've ever done ever. Because social
Totally
media
agree.
doesn't doesn't align with me and who I am. So we're giving our audience today permission to discover what lights you up in your business, back to the purpose of why you started in the first place. Reconnect with that. What
Yeah.
lights you up? What kind of life do you want to live? And what kind of business do you want to have? And give yourself permission to just maybe for the next 90 days, just try it out. Just try it this way. Just try to be in alignment with everything you do and unwind the things that are not in alignment. And that is a very refreshing, lightening thing to do. And
Yeah.
if you run into fear or resistance, we've got Camille and you've got me, because I know that fear of like, well, who am I to do this big thing? If I go this business big or whatever, I do this big thing, who am I? And I'm like, well, who are you to not do this, not
Yep.
fulfill this vision entrusted to you by the universe?
Mhm.
Like that takes a lot of audacity to ignore your gifts. You've been given them for a reason. So get them out there. Hello, And so I want to remind people that if you're running into fear and resistance, then you can talk to Camille or me, and we'll tell you how to do that. So Camille, thank you so much for being a wonderful, insightful guest on Conversations Worth Your While. Do you have something that you can share with our audience, so how they can connect with you, or maybe a resource that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can come into my community at soulprofessional.com, SOUL professional.com. We have free networking. I do free master classes every single month. And they can connect with me there. They can connect with me personally if they need a question or something. I do clarity calls about 5 a month. So yeah, thank you so much, Linda, for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, you are welcome. It's been really wonderful having this conversation with you today. So once again, I am Linda Bucher, a master certified life coach and speaker and podcaster. And I'm on a mission to inspire and impact millions of people to know your worth and share your gifts, deliberately creating a splash that ripples positively in its wake, because that's what you're here to do. So if you feel stuck or unworthy or unfulfilled or out of alignment in your life or career, I'd love to have a chat with you. You can just chat with me right on my website. You can set something up. It's lindabucher.com/chat with Linda. So you can do that. And I will put Camille's information as well into the show notes. So I would just like to thank Camille once again, the alternative business engineer, for being here. And I'd like to thank you, devoted listener and lifelong learner, for sharing your time with us today. And until next time, Please subscribe and make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.